So thank you, Mr. Fader. Great speech, Charlie. You are the sprinkles on top of that cake. Before I begin, I want to make sure that my colleagues and peers down there know how much I value and appreciate them. This is my 5th year at Williams, and I can say thanks to these fine folks. I'm a better teacher and a person because of you, and that I, as well as the students who are walking across this very stage today, owe you an ineffable debt. So thank you. And to my wife, who's videotaping me talking to her right now. You are the most giving person I know. You sacrifice so much, take on such a burden in order to guide our students, set our son on his path, and buoy your off-flailing husband. Your wisdom and beauty and kindness make me privileged just to know you. To call you my partner is simply affluence. I love you more and more. Thank you. And now to the class of 2016, the moment you've been waiting for, an adult to sit you down and lecture you about how to live your life. Finally you get that chance, right? To my delight, I've taught nearly all of you, so sorry Beatrice, Andrew, Hetty, and Jack, I guess you'll never be able to know the secrets your peers do about reading and writing more gooder. And most of you have been in my charges 2 or 3 times. A handful of you even had me twice this year, sometimes bookending your day with criminals and literature during first period and writing as readers before the last bell. I've advised you, coached you, beat you in fantasy football, Dan Doherty. I never lost to him. Laughed with you, laughed at you, not you, Isabella, you're not funny. Incessantly told you to put the dang period after the parenthetical citations in your essays. Listened as you recited gorgeous poems, and engaged more than a bit of schadenfreude in watching you struggle on those reading quizzes where I asked you to add something, anything to a printout of SparkNotes. Right? Who failed one of those? Anyone? Yeah? That being said, to be asked to be your commencement speaker is, without hyperbole, the highest privilege and honor of my teaching career. I thank you for giving me the chance, and I thank the families out there for entrusting me to work with your sons and daughters. So, the first thing I want you to do is to close your eyes. Go ahead, seriously. All right, now think of the person you most want to be like. You can define that however you want. The person you most want to be like. I mean a real person, Sam Morris, so stop thinking about Batman. Annie Longo, stop imagining a taller version of yourself. I wish I could do that to like all 48 of them. All right, but make sure you have that image of who you want to be like. All right, now open your eyes. How many of you imagine someone sitting in that audience? I mean, I don't believe all you got to do what you got to do, but those of you who are sincere, that's pretty incredible, right? Now, how many of you imagined me? Yeah. Liar. Right? And I don't blame you. Like, what do I have to offer? Like, literally, if your only goal in life is to be on Jeopardy, there's a guy right there who answered 60 more questions than I did. I've got nothing. Like, so what am I even doing up here? I've read and watched a lot of commencement speeches, and almost all of them are some variation of how to succeed. Business leaders and politicians and writers who have actually published books and haven't been tinkering with the same projects for a decade, now that I'm talking about myself. We'll talk about perseverance and taking advantage of opportunities. They'll say things like, shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. What? No, I prefer not to float around the vast emptiness of space for eternity, just because I tried and failed to do something America mastered 50 years ago. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I have neither the pedigree nor the proclivity for platitudes to tell you how to succeed. If you wanted that, you shouldn't have picked someone who drives a 2001 Plymouth Neon. And, excuse me, this is true, open this school year by wearing 2 different colored shoes. thing is that the shelf life for these speeches is pretty short. I'm not egotistical enough to think that down the road, when you hear your much more illustrious college commencement speaker give you the deets on, well, how to succeed, that you'll think, ooh, if I combine this person's advice with what Mr. Harris said 4 years ago, I'll be a demigod. The truth is you probably won't remember much of what I say here. Such is life. So what I want to talk about is nothing profound or overly philosophical. My topic is simply your first week or so of college. Once you're done with that, about 3 months from now, you can delete this from your memory and fill that space with ramen noodle recipes. You're going to need them. But you're also in luck. I'm kind of an expert in this. My favorite part of my college experience was volunteering for and working in Eastern Michigan University's orientation program. When people tell you to get involved, my time in the orientation program is the sort of thing they're talking about. I helped incoming students, I made lifelong friendships, I took on leadership positions, I even got a nickname out of it. Any guesses? Coryentation. I gave myself that nickname. But people actually called me that. So odds are, when you get to your school that first weekend, you'll have a peppy, charmingly annoying junior trying, just like I was, to fire you up with some weird cheer. Something like this. Hey, Lucy, come up here for a minute. Hey, Lucy Burr, how do you feel?
I'm good, Mr. Harris. How do you feel?
Right, so that was terrible. That was terrible. This is how you need to answer that in college, right? Now, ask me again.
Mr. Harris, how do you feel?
I feel good! Oh, I feel so good! Oh, double good! Oh, There will be literally people screaming something like that at you. You'll either love it or hate it. Lucy, how do you feel? So be ready, it's gonna happen. Aside from that oddness, the most striking thing, I think, about going to college is that you will see hundreds of people and pretty much all of them will be for the first time. That's a scary thought. If you've spent most of your adolescence in relative comfort and familiarity, if you've eaten lunch with the same friends day in and day out, if you know who's a good lab partner and, let's say, whose goggles are probably always a little too tight around his brain, if you've had the same lenient English teacher who you know you can effortlessly convince to let you submit that essay late, you should realize, right here and now, that when you pack up your car or hop on that plane in August, you are in for a brave new world. And while you can draw your own comparisons between a college campus and Aldous Huxley's hedonistic world state, the point is, it's going to be different. And even though you all know it's going to be different, we all put an outsized pressure on this first week of school. I'm sure you've fretted about that more than anything. Colleges want you to feel at home before you even lay sheets in your bed. During orientation, you're put in these large, unwieldy groups because you absolutely must find your future best man or maid of honor before you understand how your meal plan works. You're supposed to have an identity for yourself right when you show up, even though this might be the first time you really had to consider who exactly you are. If you're not having the time of your life right away, apparently you're doing it wrong. So let good old Coryentation take the pressure off. This is what you have to look forward to during your first week. At least once, you're going to make yourself look like an idiot in front of people in your dorm. You'll walk in late to your 9 a.m. seminar because even after however many years of getting up at 6:30 or even 7 o'clock to make it to Williams by 8, in college it's downright heroic to heave yourself out of your top bunk before 8:51 a.m. You will exaggerate your worst qualities and downplay your best because that's our survival instinct. You are going to fall for the first guy or gal who pays you a smidgen of attention because, well, you're stupid. And all of your friends will tell you that you're stupid, and you'll be like, I know, but... And no matter what you say or vow, you will still be stupid. And that is all before Labor Day. I am so jealous. I am. It's true. I don't know if anyone was more excited than I was to go to college. I was at the front door of my dorm before anyone else even got there, and I'd already set up my half of the room before my roommate showed up. Seriously, on my desk I had action figures configured in this perfectly choreographed fight scene. But when my roommate did walk in, he had a whole bunch of stuff too, and we had to rearrange everything in the room anyway, and all the work I had done was for naught. Yes, your mistakes will begin with that first box you haul into your dorm that's filled with things you probably don't really need. And let me be sincere here. I hope with all my heart that your mistakes aren't the ones of nightmares, that you don't actively go out and try to create regrets, that you are not harmed, and that you do not cause harm. These are real fears, and ones that if I thought I could prevent with a speech, I would. But the fact of the matter is that during that first week especially, you're all peacocks flaunting your tales of ignorance and naivete. And nowhere will you be more wrong than when it comes to other people. Let's face it, the most exotic person most of you deal with on a regular basis is Harry Davis. And now you're going to be thrown into a maelstrom of first impressions. You'll be yapping about music with somebody from the same town as your new school, and they'll rave about some local band, and you'll have no idea who they're talking about because it's literally your first day living in Maryland, and you couldn't possibly know about Ghost Hotel, and then they'll play a song for you and you think it's garbage, but there's no way you're going to say that to one of the 4 people on campus who actually wants to be your friend. Or you've never thought much about the patriarchy or the name of the Washington football team or settlements on the West Bank, and all of a sudden you have to take sides in a debate. Or even worse, there's no debate at all, and now you feel like you have to agree with everyone in the room, even when you don't. You're going to meet folks from the inner city, or Laos, or, God forbid, Ohio, and find you know nothing about their culture. Ashton Kozlowski, you might be people who have never seen salmon-colored shorts. The joke is he wears them all the time. You might unintentionally make those girls down the hall feel like losers because they'd rather spend Saturday night watching movies in their dorm than relive the drama of Friday night, even if all you're doing is trying to be sociable. Or you might whittle away your first weekday afternoon Skyping with your best friend from Williams because your roommate already found someone they like better than you and left without inviting you to lunch. Your professor will glare at you because most college classrooms don't have clocks and you were checking the time on your phone, and now you're convinced he hates you, and then you look at the syllabus and see that you have a 9-page paper due the Monday after Thanksgiving, and you've already decided that this is the worst class ever. Then you'll cross campus, a pleasant breeze caressing your face as you walk through a tree-lined path, waving to that person you recognize from some silly orientation icebreaker, and walk into your next class to a warm welcome from a professor who looks like J.K. Rowling, or Santa Claus, or some other appealing figure, and think to yourself, yes, this is why I'm here. And then after your first week, almost none of that will matter. You won't even know what happened to that person who was just a little too adamant that some indie band could change your life. You'll find yourself passionate about a cause you didn't even know about when you were a lowly high school student, and spend as much time making your campus a better place as you do making yourself a better thinker. Your new squad will consist of people of all races and cultures and identities, and even a bro from Cincinnati rocking jean shorts. You'll leave a lame party early and come back to watch the dregs of Netflix with those girls down the hall. Your roommate who didn't invite you to lunch will be the one who orders pizza for you both in the middle of a marathon cramming session. That professor who looks like Santa will turn out to be a Grinch, and that 9-page paper will be the best thing you've ever written because the teacher who you thought hated you encouraged you to come to office hours. And even though you told everyone you were going to be a public relations major, you find out your new best friend is also a public relations major who has spent the last few years interning at a newspaper and knows a lot more about the field than you do, so you get scared and decide to be an English major instead. Seriously. I majored in English education because my friend Tim, who lived down the hall, was going into PR and he intimidated me. Shoot for the moon. But all of that's what makes college so fun. Most of you are in for the most error-riddled 4 years of your life because college is one of the few places where first impressions matter least. I guess if I had to distill this whole speech down to one thing, it's this. In all things, especially with people, the less certain you are, the more pleasantly surprised you'll be when you're invariably disproved. One of my favorite literary passages comes from Philip Roth's novel, American Pastoral, considered one of the great American works of the last 30 years. In it, the main character, a writer, tries to get in the head of his childhood friend and hero, a star athlete who in adulthood has to carry the burden of his daughter becoming a terrorist. This is what the narrator says about understanding others, and I think it's a perfect illustration of how you should approach meeting all the new people in your life. You fight your superficiality, your shallowness, so as to try to come at people without unreal expectations, without an overload of bias or hope or arrogance, as untank-like as you can be, sans cannon and machine guns and steel plating half a foot thick. You come at them unmenacingly on your own 10 toes, instead of tearing up the turf with your caterpillar treads. Take them on with an open mind, as equals, man to man, as we used to say, and yet you never fail to get them wrong. You might as well have the brain of a tank. You get them wrong before you meet them. While you're anticipating meeting them, you get them wrong while you're with them, and then you go home to tell somebody else about the meeting and you get them all wrong again. Since the same generally goes for them with you, the whole thing is really a dazzling illusion empty of all perception, an astonishing farce of misperception. And yet, what are we to do about this terribly significant business of other people, which gets bled of the significance we think it has and takes on instead a significance that is ludicrous? So ill-equipped are we all to envision one another's interior workings and invisible aims. The fact remains that getting people right is not what living is all about anyway. It's getting them wrong that is living, getting them wrong, and wrong, and wrong, and then, on careful reconsideration, getting them wrong again. That's how we know we're alive. We're wrong. Maybe the best thing would be to forget being right or wrong about people and just go along for the ride. But if you can do that, well, lucky you. So there are two things that really make us miserable. When people get us wrong, and those rare times when people get us right. We don't want people to see us as imperfect creatures, but we hate when they know exactly our faults. And either way, we know they don't have all the information. So keep that in mind as you meet new people. Like drafts of essays, your first impressions are really works in progress. As long as you're fine with changing your thesis, as long as you embrace the glorious nature of uncertainty, you're doing just fine. So, class of 2016, prepare to screw up a lot. I can say that with a wry smile because I know it will almost surely work out in the end. And if you aren't successful, you can't blame me. I didn't give you any advice on that. But there's one thing you absolutely do not have my blessing to mess up, and that's goodbyes. The only thing I truly regret from my first day of college was how I said goodbye to my mom. Because my school was just one county over, and I was literally going to be back in my bedroom the next weekend. 18-year-old me couldn't understand why she was crying so much. I'll see you next Saturday, I reassured her after an all-too-short hug. But my physical presence wasn't the issue. You see, whether you're the first child leaving or the last, whether you're best friends with your parents and guardians, or whether you can hardly say 2 words to each other without bitterness, the moment you're put off into the wide, wide world is really like no other. Today, your parents will hug you and say, "I'm so proud of you," because of what you've accomplished. And in August, they'll hug you even tighter and say once more, "I'm so proud of you," because they want to make sure it holds true forever. You'll be saying hello to something you've been dreaming about for a while now, but for them, this will be the test of all the time and sweat and love they put into you. No matter what you mess up, no matter where and in what you err, make sure your mistakes are your own. And if they ask for another hug, give it to them. Because though you are going to start your new life off wrong, you want to make sure you end your old one just right. Good luck to you, class of 2016. Congratulations. Be brave, be well, and never forget, in the wise words of Bruce Springsteen, it ain't no sin to be glad you're alive. I will miss you. Thank you.